call the Thursday, March 7, Town of Rome Board meeting to order. Roll call, starting on my left.
Capel here.
Minter here.
Jumati here.
Cole here.
All right here.
Okay. Certify the posting of the meeting.
I certify that on Tuesday, March 5th, 2024, the agenda for the Town of Rome Board meeting for Thursday, March 7th, 2024 was posted at the Rome Town Hall at 10:50 a.m., Quicklip LLC at 11 a.m., Nakusa Port Edwards State Bank at 11:05 a.m., email to the Wisconsin Rapids Tribune at 10:55 a.m.
Okay, thank you. Item number 4, approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve the amended agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Supervisor Cole, second by Supervisor Minter to approve the amended agenda as presented. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, do we have any citizen comment cards? We have none? Okay, we'll forego the reading of that. But I will read, the board will also take comment from the public on agenda items as called by the chair, but not during citizen comment. Please note that once the board begins discussion on an agenda item, no further comment will be allowed from the public on that issue. No action contemplated except possible referral to the future agenda. Number 7, informational updates, meeting recaps, recent correspondence, current events, and announcements. Starting on my left.
I have nothing.
So I'd like to congratulate the library director at the Leicester Library of Rome for receiving the $10,000 Small and Rural Libraries grant from the American Library Association. A couple of months ago, Nicole applied for this grant in order to begin to build out the ability to have home-delivered library materials for mobility impaired residents of and visitors, I guess, to the town of Rome. So we were lucky, one of 320 libraries throughout the United States that received this grant. So congratulations, Nicole. Look forward to seeing these plans develop. I know you have some trainings that they're going to help you to understand how to interact with the public, and then you'll be looking for people to give input, and more information will be forthcoming as this opportunity begins to become a reality of having home-delivered library materials.
Congratulations.
Nice.
Yeah. And she said that was her first grant.
It was.
Good job.
It's always good to be a winner first.
I know. Got a perfect score.
Sets the bar higher.
Okay. Okay, I have a couple announcements. First off, I did receive a call from Jason Knack at Senator Teston's office this week. We had a nice conversation, and then he did call me back with some additional information after I had a question. It had to do with Senate Bill 1075, and it regards solar. And so he did follow up with me and said that it has been referred to the Senate Committee on Natural Resources and Energy. He spoke with the Senate chair of that committee, and they liked the proposal and the principle. The larger problem is, though, that the Assembly has adjourned, and this bill will not be passed on at this time, so it won't be able to be passed this session, and we'll have to wait till the next time. He also heard back from their liaison that he checked for me on the Public Service Commission to see if the Camelot Solar Project has been filed with them yet. It has not, but they are aware of it. But when they will file, they will let us know, and they will have to go through the PSC for approval and undergo all the subsequent processes, including all applications approval, environmental reviews, meetings, and public hearings. So at this stage, they still consider it at an early stage. So Senate Bill 1075, I believe, had to do with giving more local authority to towns, villages, cities regarding solar and wind projects, that they would have to come to us for approval based on our comprehensive plans and zoning before it could go to the Public Service Commission for approval. And I said we, of course, would be in support of that. Because we are required to have such plans, we would want that say. So he'll be staying in touch with me, I'll be staying in touch with them, and I wanted to give you that update. Another thing I wanted to share with you, I was asked to speak at a recent special Land and Water and UW Extension Committee, as well as the Adams County Board meeting on February 20th regarding the recent approval of adding acreage to the Adams County Forest Program. This process started over a year ago. In fact, it started way back in October of 2022. We can thank Dustin, the zoning administrator and land and water director down at Adams County for this. He started that process with Meteor Timber. We know that they own quite a bit of acreage in Adams County, and he started that process with Meteor Timber, the DNR, and with Adams County to set some land aside in the Adams County Forest. Now, we've actually been part of this program since the ordinance was put in place in 2022. And then they passed this resolution. Last year I found out about it shortly after being elected, that there were some lands they were looking at, and the biggest parcels they could find were in the town of Rome and Big Flats. So they put these lands in for Knowles Nelson stewardship funds and a county forest loan. And so they've been working on this extensively, and it was just recently passed. There was only a handful of supervisors that voted against the plan, but it's pretty exciting. So the original 140 acres that were in the town of Rome at the park over here on Camelot, and I believe at Seven Sisters Quarry area, it's now totaling 738 acres. So they approved 598 acres for inclusion in that park. So that's pretty exciting. And they said over the summer they'll be adding signage, developing a trail plan for silent sports and possibly horseback riding. You can go out to the Adams County GIS map and start reviewing that land and considering how you might want to use it and explore it. And they will be asking for people to participate from Rome and Big Flats in developing that plan. So there is a big article in the Adams Friendship paper today, and it was written by Dustin, and you can find out all about that process. But again, that process took almost a year and a half to develop and explore with Meteor Timber. They looked at several different parcels, and this was the biggest parcel that was available, as other parcels were being explored for other uses. So just want to congratulate Dustin and the county on that, and continue adding those in for public use. The last one would be the agricultural and household hazardous waste cleanup and drug take back and half-price tires and appliances at the Adams County Solid Waste and Recycling location. That'll be on Saturday, May 4th from 8 a.m. till noon. And it really is helpful if you take these materials down there. They do this once a year. They take everything from automotive, like fuel, contaminated oils, degreasers, lawn and garden supplies like your poisons, pesticides. Hopefully you don't have too many poisons laying around, but herbicides, household cleaners, pool chemicals, floor polishes, flammable liquids, workshop cleaners like creosotes, varnish. We have a big poster. You can also find it online at the Adams County Waste site. Half-price appliances, latex paints. So just check it out. You can even call down there, and that's a really good way to get rid of items that you no longer want in your home or garage. So that's all I have. So, Jackie, you have anything?
I just noticed there's a Rome Indoor Farmers Market tomorrow
Yeah.
from 12 to 3. Is that at Woodland Church?
Yes.
And it's at Woodland Church. And it says you can get your Easter basket shopping done. So I haven't thought much about that, but I guess it is coming up. And that's all I have.
Bob, do you have anything?
No, I have nothing.
Okay. Alrighty then. Jason, do you have anything you want to update us on? Any reports or? Okay. All right, so moving along then. Discuss and possible action on the following items. Discussion and possible action Approval of the February 15th, 2024 meeting minutes. Anybody?
I'll move to approve the minutes of February 15th as presented.
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Cole, a second by Supervisor Capel for discussion.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'd just like to add under item 7, under my comment about all utility committee positions have been filled. I also stated that there was an unauthorized communication put out by Camelot. I'd like that included in the minutes.
Okay.
That was soliciting utility people, and the positions were already filled.
Okay.
I don't want to lose track of that.
Okay. Are you willing to amend your first?
Yes, I'll amend.
Okay. So we have amended first by Supervisor Cole, amended second by Supervisor Capel. You have that? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, sorry, Bob. I forget that delay. Sorry about that. Motion carries. Number 9, discussion and possible action, approval for a temporary Class B retailer's license for Visit Rome to sell fermented malt beverages at the various concerts to be held at the Rome Band Shell, 274 Geneva Trail on June 7th, July 20th, and July 27, 2024, from 5 to 8 p.m.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Capel, second by Supervisor Minter to approve the temporary Class B retailer's license for Visit Rome to sell fermented malt beverages at various concerts June 7th, July 20th, and July 27th. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Did it again. I'm sorry, Bob. I'll try and remember there's a delay. Alrighty. Discussion and possible action. Emmett's on the Lake, LLC, 1682 Apache Lane, Nakusa, Class B combination liquor license status. No permits or plans for renovations have been submitted to date for opening in 2024. I'll just start this off. We received a letter and conversation today that they have agreed to surrender unconditionally their liquor license to the town of Rome, and that will follow the process that we have in our town guidelines. So what we will need at this point then is to accept a motion to accept their unconditional
Their
surrender.
surrender.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do a motion to accept the surrender.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
And Madam Chair, I'll move that we accept the surrender of the license from Emmett's on the Lake.
The unconditional surrender, correct?
Just
It's
surrender.
just a surrender.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Supervisor Capel, a second by Supervisor Cole to accept the surrender of the liquor license by Emmett's on the Lake. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Number 11, discussion and possible action. Resolution 24, approving the 2024 through 2026 lease agreement between the Rapids Angels Motorcycle Club and the Town of Rome for 60 acres at Derricuse Recreation Area. Yes, go
All right,
ahead, Nick,
So this
please.
item relates to an extension of the lease for the Rapid Angels property at Derricuse. The packet information, I think, gives a good overview of the notable items, but I'll just list them again. First, there is an unchanged rent amount from the previous lease, so that rent is flat across the 3 years. Second, there is in this lease an allowance of seasonal park passes for the club members, but there is also an increase in potential event days that we can have with organizations. That increase goes from 3 to 7. At your tables this evening, I've provided you a sheet that at the top of it says fiscal impact. I did that so you could see just in general what the fiscal impact of each of those 3 changes really are. And just then really a note that as we went through that and put that together, the proposed update would have an expected net positive fiscal impact for the town.
Are there any questions for Nick regarding the lease? Okay. Then I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move to approve the 2024 to 2026 lease agreement with the Rapids Angels Motorcycle Club and the Town of Rome for the 60-acre parcel at the Syracuse Recreation Area as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Minter, second by Supervisor Capel for approval of Resolution 24 approving the 2024 through 2026 lease agreement between the Rapid Angels Motorcycle Club and the Town of Rome for 60 acres at the Syracuse Recreation Area. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Discussion and possible action. Update on a town ordinance regulating wake sport activities. I'll just say we included a number of items in our packet for this evening to get this discussion rolling. As we said, we would begin it again in the spring before the active boating season started. As we know, it's warming up pretty fast here. Thank you to Supervisor Cole for having done a lot of preliminary work already last year. We have information from Diamond Lake. We know one size doesn't fit all. We also know that the legislature, the assembly has already closed down for this session. The Senate will be closing soon, and they've decided not to pass anything. A bill has been read into committee on doing a wake sport study, and I don't know that will get a hearing, which is what I've heard. So we can begin this conversation and decide how the board wants to move forward. We have the condition report that Tri-Lakes wrote, and we have a sample of the one that was done for the Diamond Lake ordinance. We have the sample of the Diamond Lake ordinance itself that was passed. And we also have the study, or the survey that was completed, so. Where do we want to start?
Well, I didn't see an ordinance, so I'm not sure what I'm looking at. I saw a lot of things leading up to the formation of an ordinance, but I didn't see an ordinance drafted, so I don't have anything to respond to.
It's just a placeholder, it's just information. There's a sample there, so.
I would wonder, sorry, if the condition report has been reviewed by DNR, and I'm not remembering in here if it says that it was. And if it hasn't been, then I would suggest that this go to DNR to have them look at it, to have them weigh in on whether they agree with this condition report, and to get their feedback, pro or con, and what they think about the condition. Because I think that's something we would want in our packet if we are gonna go forward to do any type of ordinance on wake boating. To have all of the documentation we can. We had Tri-Lakes prepare this report. If DNR supports it or has their own information, and then I guess put together some sort of really preliminary draft ordinance, so we have something to look at and work from as a draft document, to have Nick look at that, to see if that's something you would agree to do, if that's part of your, or if you'd want someone else to look at it as far as legal counsel to review any sort of draft ordinance that we create, kind of modeling after that Diamond Lake one. And the reason that was looked at is we talked to them extensively, and that ordinance hasn't been challenged.
So now Nick had stated before and has stated often that he would not be interested in participating in drafting an ordinance for the town. I had contacted and just got basic information at no cost from a Paul Kent, who was with I can't think of the name of the firm, and I forgot to bring it with me. Maybe somebody can Google it for us, but he is an environmental and water expert that does work very closely with the DNR and has good contacts with the DNR, and has worked in our area, Adams County, down in the Friendship Lake area, southern part of the county. That would be one that has been referenced for drafting such an ordinance. So if we would want to work with that person to help us
He's in the
draft an
Madison,
ordinance.
he's in the Madison office of Stafford Rosenbaum.
That's it, Stafford Rosenbaum.
Well, then that would make sense to have someone that's more familiar with it. So I think that would make sense to take what we have and sit down with someone and say, this is what we have, where are we at, and where do we go from here?
And do we feel that it's up to Tri-Lakes to have this condition report looked at by the DNR first and get them to weigh in on this report? Because when you look at that one compared to Diamond Lake, I don't know,
I was gonna make a comment on that. I compared the two, and there's a lot of anecdotal information in our hazardous, or in our condition report that doesn't appear in the Diamond Lake one. They did more factual things. And in ours, we pointed a 10-foot stretch of beach and say, well, we don't know why it washed away, but that's why we want a wakeboard ordinance. So I wasn't real satisfied with the condition report as it stands now. I concur with Jackie, the DNR should look at it and weigh in on it.
I
And
agree
also,
with that. I guess
there
we
was-
asked them for a condition report, and this is what they gave us. So
and
if we're not,
Okay,
you know,
The next, Tri-Lake meeting is next Wednesday, and I will expect that we have that forward to the DNR for comment at that time.
okay,
Okay.
thank you,
Yeah.
Bob.
the other thing that I read in going through the information we received, and I looked at some of the anecdotal information, or some of the information that was referenced, and one of the things it says that there were 9 points of watercraft type things that should be considered when fashioning the draft on any kind of an ordinance. It also suggested that our local conservation warden or recreational warden should be looking at the ordinance prior to any discussion, so that so that the WDNR is on board with what we're proposing. So those steps should all be taken, I think, before it comes back to us.
Where did you read that, Bill?
I'm trying to remember. One moment. Let me just look. I think that one came out of the guidelines for creating local boating ordinances.
In that document, yeah, okay.
That's published by the DNR.
The county does not have a lake conservation specifically as Carpenter has resigned.
Said the county does not have a lake conservation officer because the person has resigned.
Well, are you talking, I'm sorry, Bob, you're kind of going in and out, but are you referring to the land and water conservationists, or the land, or the grant person that they had at one point that was the lake
It shows out that-
specialist?
It shows what Bob is saying. It shows on the map on the very back of that report that the south central west is vacant.
Oh, that's, okay, I see.
So then we should submit it and let DNR decide who they want to review it.
Okay,
That's their problem, not our problem.
So I think, to me, if a next step might be to consult with this attorney, because we're making thoughts and ideas of all these things we think we need to do, and it does make sense what you're suggesting, and I think what I suggested, but we don't need to do things that we don't have to do. I mean,
yep.
so that it's probably going to take a motion to agree to have some discussion with the attorney, because I assume that's going to cost money. Or however you want to go
Do
about
we want to
it.
have them do this first with the DNR?
Well, we have to make sure, I mean, I guess it's like, what do you want to put ahead? You want to have someone tell you exactly what it is that you need? Or do you want to spend the time getting something and then finding out, well, you didn't really need that?
The other piece I really want to think about this too is that there's enforcement we need to think about. That's the only other piece that we gotta think about. 2 boats, 4 officers, and just the enforcement piece. So just, on all the lakes, and keep it in mind.
I like Jackie's suggestion. I think we should go forth with the attorney and find out what he feels the requirements are for us.
'Cause, I mean, I think at the end of the day, we could write an ordinance and we could sign it and pass it and without talking to anybody. But what we're trying to do is write an ordinance that seems in consideration of everything and to avoid legal problems down the road and to try to write something that allows people to enjoy the lake as much as possible but protects it as well. And not everybody's gonna be happy. There's probably impossible to have that happen, but just to take all the consideration we can. I don't think there's no requirements to this, as far as I know. You don't have to have a condition report, you don't have to have DNR, we can just write an ordinance, but the reason we have all these things would be to protect the town
Alright.
from any, anyone who challenged such
be-
an ordinance.
Do you wanna be the one, do you wanna continue working on this then and move forward and
I can continue working on it, if that means to confer
Paul
with
Kent.
the attorney, and then, I mean, I don't know to what extent you want Tri-Lakes to be involved in this, if they should be involved or not, so whether representative from there should also be involved, I guess that's a decision.
Well, I think if we're gonna use legal, counsel and the town is spending the money, it should be only you.
Okay,
I feel that way. Because it's our expenditure. I don't know,
so I'm willing to speak to him and show him what we have today as a preliminary discussion, and what do we need to move forward? Or not move forward, or whatever, what do we need to do next?
any other thoughts?
Because we've done this survey, we've done the condition report, we've done all this, it's like we just keep going in circles. I think it's time to just get an idea of
It was kinda left to us and we wanna get it done and
how
off
do
our,
we,
yeah.
how do we get to the finish line on
If I
this?
was the attorney, I'd ask you, what do you want? What do you want, what do you want in the ordinance?
Well, we kind of have a draft ordinance of what we're thinking, so,
No, we have a draft, or we have an ordinance from Grandview. Do you have I didn't see a draft ordinance for the town.
that's the
of-
one that we were
that's-
looking at, comparing to.
I don't
So
know if
what's
I'm
your
ready to spend all
suggestion?
money on this yet, until we know which direction we're going. And I'd like to see a draft ordinance of where you're heading. And it doesn't have to be perfect, it's just, I have no idea where you're heading yet. I see something from Grandview, I don't see anything from Rome. I'd like to see a draft.
But I think what Jackie's saying is that we would take that Grandview ordinance and show it to this attorney and ask him to craft something that would be specific to Rome. Off of patterned after the Grandview ordinance.
Is that what you're saying,
Is that what
Jackie?
you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, if you'd like, I can take this Grandview ordinance home and put it in a Word document and start substituting, but, I'm not an attorney, I can't write an ordinance, but I mean, that's sort of what we're looking at.
No, because that's the
So-
question I said you would ask, is what do you want? And if you take that to him and say, make it for Rome, that covers what I asked.
I think that's a good starting point, and then his reason and his expertise is to tell us this is properly written, or you should add this or take that out. That's how attorneys that I've worked with work, so I think we're giving him a fair thing to work with as a model. He's probably familiar with this one, because it was one of the early ordinances, and they're a community that people go to talk about this. They spend a lot of time on this. But it's up to you all, I mean. I think if we're looking for a DNR to come in and look at things, we might as well figure we're not doing anything this year, cause they don't seem to be very fast about doing anything.
The state nor the DNR. Nobody
So-
wants it, yeah.
Well, obviously the DNR has looked at the other 3 or 4 or 5 ordinances already, so I would think that they could comment on ours relatively quickly.
That's true, they did review the ones in, Diamond Lake.
Where were the
Once
other
the
ones?
ordinance is drafted, state stats provide a timeline that the DNR has to provide, comment and approve or say, we don't like this and it needs to be changed. That's set out in stats.
I'm sorry, Jason, I missed the first part of what you said. I
State
didn't,
statutes, if you create a local voting ordinance, dictate how much time the DNR has to review it and get us an answer.
That would be at the time of an adoption, right? And so.
Prior to adoption, there's a
Prior to
timeline when it gets sent to them, and then they have so many days to review
Right,
it,
but that would be after you
draft.
got a draft. So the question is, when do you want the DNR's input in this? So
And I don't know if they would even comment before that. When we've made voting ordinance changes before, they weren't interested in commenting until, we got to that
Right.
stage of submitting it to them for
Do you have something, this is what we're gonna do, what do you?
correct.
and then we would submit it to him. Okay. Right.
I would just point out to the other members that it's worth going into the guideline for creating local voting ordinances, going to page 8 and looking at when you're going to regulate by watercraft by type, the 9 points that they suggest that you follow.
If you look at that draft ordinance, we're not regulating the boat, we're not regulating the watercraft, we'd be regulating the activity.
Okay.
Correct.
But again, it
Except
goes
that
back
one
to-
of the things is asking, okay, I'll go back and look at the activity part.
That's why they were successful, because when you start telling people they can't have a certain type of watercraft,
You're opening yourself up for a lot
that's
of
a
problems.
problem.
Yep.
So,
So do we need a motion to have Jackie check with the attorney, or is it simply our discussion says that we would like her to check with the attorney and have him craft a possible draft ordinance for us based on the exemplars from
I
Grandview?
need a motion to authorize her to work with the attorney to draft a ordinance, and only her, not Tri-Lakes, cause it is town money and our
And-
ordinance.
In that case, I'll move that we authorize Supervisor Cole to work with the attorney, Paul, what was his name?
Paul Kent
Kent.
from Staff, what was the name of the firm again?
Stafford Rosenbaum, for the purpose of, modifying, existing other watercraft wakeboard ordinances, to be specific to the town of Rome.
Could I suggest that we cap it at a certain amount,
Sure.
not to exceed $2,500
Okay,
at this point in time?
not to exceed $2,500.
And
at this
if
point
we
in time.
need more than that, come back.
Yeah, that's, can
think
we,
that's a reasonable
may I
amount to
suggest that
start.
you do that, change that wording to
Sure.
be wake boat activities, is that the wording we're trying to stick with, so that we, yeah,
All right,
or wake
all right, I'll
sport
start all over
activities,
the
yeah,
motion.
well, you
All
were
right.
close,
That
but,
was close. All right, I'll move that we authorize Supervisor Cole on behalf of the town of Rome to enter in discussions with attorney Paul Kent from Stafford Rosenbaum with regards to establishing or drafting a draft ordinance for wake boat activities in the town, on the lakes in the town of Rome, with an amount not to exceed $2,500 at the initial expenditure.
I'll second.
I'll second the motion.
oh, Bill
Give
already
it to
did,
Bob.
Bob, but
No,
thank you.
let Bob have it.
Oh, Bob, you can have it, he gave it to you. It's yours. All right. So we have a motion by Supervisor Minter. I hope you have it, because I'm not gonna try and repeat it. A second by Supervisor Capel.
No, Supervisor
Oh,
Bauer.
I'm sorry, Supervisor Bauerheit. to allow Supervisor Cole to proceed with Attorney Paul Kent for an amount not to exceed $2,500. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So you wanna just report back at the next meeting then, or you want
Sure.
one more time, or?
That'll depend on his schedule, so
Alright.
I will try to report back at the next
Whenever,
meeting,
okay.
one way or the other.
Alrighty. Okay. Let's see here. Discussion and possible action, request for the Wisconsin Trap Shooting Association to waive fees for Rome Fire Department standby at the high school Clay Target League State Shoot, June 8th through June 9th, 2024. The SCTP State Shoot, June 22nd through the 23rd, 2024. And the Wisconsin State Shoot, July 9th through the 14th, 2024.
Move to approve the request of the Wisconsin Trap Shooting Association to waive fees for the Rome Fire Department standby at the High School Clay Target League Shoot State Meet, June 8th and 9th, 2024. The SCTP State Shoot, June 22nd and 23rd, 2024. And the Wisconsin State Shoot, June 9th to the 14th, 2024.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Supervisor Minter, a second by Supervisor Cole for approval of request for the Wisconsin Trap Shooting Association to waive fees for the Rome Fire Department for standby at the high school Clay Target Shoot League State Shoots in June and July. Discussion?
I would just state for the record that our chief gave us a letter supporting the waiving of the fees, so I would support it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I do have a follow-up question. Do we know what account this one comes out of? Fire chief? Well,
It would just, the wages would come out of our payroll account.
okay. All right. Discussion and possible action. Allow town zoning, number 14. Discussion and possible recommendation to the Adams County Board of Adjustment, John G. Hubman, special exemption request from the Adams County Shoreland Zoning Ordinance 396-30A for excavation / grading of more than 1,000 square feet on slope of 12% to 20% within 300 feet of ordinary high water mark. The special exception is associated with the property address of 997 Kingsway, described as Lot 15 and 16 of the Dover addition to Lake Camelot, located in the southeast quarter of Section 16, Town 20 North, Range 06 East, Town of Rome, with a property identification number of 030-5298-10. Nick, do we need any additional?
Well, I can just give a
give us
general overview of this one, and then I'll also kind of give you a lead into the next agenda item. But this particular one relates to a special exemption request that is requesting an exemption from the Adams County Shoreland Zoning Ordinance regulations. Specifically, this request is to allow excavation and grading of more than 1,000 feet or 1,000 square feet of soil in the shoreline zoning area. Looking at this request, it actually looks like the reason that they need to have the special exemption is because they had combined parcels, and that created then a single parcel that is trying to excavate more than that 1,000 square feet. So as the county gets these requests, they always will ask for town participation. Again, I said I would lead into the next one just a little bit, and that is that right now we have that as town board participation. I think the next agenda item will relate to how we want to have that town participation going forward.
at this point in time, has Adams County indicated that they're likely to approve this special exception?
I believe so, yes.
I would think so.
I would move that we express the Town of Rome's board approval of any recommendation coming from the Adams County Board of Adjustment regarding the special exception request for the shoreline zoning ordinance for the property described in the agenda.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Supervisor Minter, second by Supervisor Capel, to approve the recommendation to the Adams County Board of Adjustment for John G. Hubman special exception request from the Adams County Shoreland Zoning Ordinance 396-30A for excavation and grading of more than 1,000 square feet of slope. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion and possible action, allow town zoning staff to sign off on Adams County Planning and Zoning Department requests for town participation in special exemptions and variances. Want to tee this one up too, please?
Sure. So as noted in that last agenda item, as we've been getting these recently, you've seen them come before you. We've had them a couple times when they've related to special exemptions from the shoreline zoning ordinance. We've also seen them relate to, sanitary matters, and that's come to us in the past as well. Some communities will not have a zoning administrator, not having a zoning department, and will then go to the town board. The county's form has it as town board, but as we've talked with the county, they're okay with zoning staff signing off on that if it's a more routine request that comes into the municipality. It would probably be a recommendation, just based off of our understanding of how these have been processed, even in the town of Rome in the past, that we authorize the zoning department to be able to do that. And then if there's a particular circumstance that warrants a little bit heightened review, right? So it's like, for example, a sanitary matter in the Rome Town Center that you might be interested in knowing a bit more about and having a bit more participation in, that those would come to the town board. Otherwise, they're more routine ones that relate to, something that the county's, largely in support of anyway, because it's not going to have a large impact, that those can be signed off by zoning staff.
My assumption is if the zoning staff is unsure of what conditions they're being asked to approve, they're consulting with you?
Yeah, I have reviewed these periodically in the past, and provided some input into.
So there's some oversight of the process.
Either that or they check with the county on what the exact request is.
Okay.
Nick, these are those letters that are these the letters that normally come to me too, or are these in addition to sometimes?
These would be the letters, you had the letter on the one we did at
Right.
the previous board meeting. A lot of times when these come to board, they've already been approved.
Right,
At the county, in certain cases, they don't need our approval to
Right.
move forward. They're just kind of notifying us, and in the past, staff has approved these even though on them they say town board. Nick brought it to my attention, that shouldn't happen. That's
Right.
why it's before you, but previous administration was signing these even though it says town board. And not only here, Big Flats also has their own zoning, and they were signing them, and the county was kind of pushy towards me to just sign it, cause that's how it was done in the past.
So that's
their
why we're
packets were
changing it.
complete, so that's why it's before you tonight to keep, otherwise the property owner that wants to do some shoreland stuff is delayed. And I gotta wait out the 60 days to get the approval, I believe, according to Nick, but these are going through whether we approve them.
so it's a courtesy,
Correct.
almost like ours is a courtesy, we have our own zoning, but we send it down to the county. In a
Correct.
way, so, I get these letters from them, and sometimes the zoning's already gone through and the date's passed, and I get the letters. They finally just started sending them to the town, because I was the chair, that's the way they were doing it, so. I appreciate Bill's question, but it gives further clarification what these actually are. It's already been done at the county, so.
I'd be inclined to agree with this when we have a zoning administrator, but not before.
They're already approved.
No, I mean, things like we had today. I mean, when we're talking about number 15, that it's to allow the zoning staff, so what I'm suggesting is I would be more inclined to say I would agree to that when we have a zoning administrator. Currently, what would we be agreeing to allowing, we don't have a zoning staff.
Currently, what you'd be agreeing to is Nick would review it, tell her to sign off on it, she would sign off on it, and it would go back to them as what the procedure would be until
Right.
that changes.
And she is the zoning support
I don't think Taylor would be in a position to approve things with the, I don't see that she has any.
You could just maybe, until that time, you could authorize the administrator to do it then, and I'll review it and have him do it. That would be fine as well. Unless they're ones that require a bit more review, that allows the process to go through a bit quicker. So I
So
mean, we could do it just with the administrator and myself too.
it could be read to allow the administrator to approve until the time that we have a zoning administrator, and then at that point,
I think internally we just set policy, I just put zoning, staff on the agenda, because right now things like this are going through Nick. And certainly no one here is gonna sign off on it until Nick approves it. That's how all the matters are being handled in the zoning department right now.
I guess we think that, but we don't have a zoning administrator, so I'm not.
Well, I would think.
It does
when
allow somebody to sign off on something, and
people
could,
signed off on it.
and
are
could
free-
get
I
us
will-
into
I will say
trouble,
this,
so.
our previous administration signed off on this when it says Town of Rome Board.
and she was
Town of
not
Rome
the
Board
zoning
didn't
administrator.
Give anyone permission, that's why I have it on
But
here
had
to clean
more
it up.
training, but I mean, that's just, and I think we're
She had
moving
no
in-
training and it said town board on it, Jackie.
But I'm not trying to argue, but I'm agreeing with this, but what I'm saying is my motion, I can make a motion that I would allow the, zoning administrator to sign off on Adams County Planning and Zoning Department requests. If no zoning administrator is in place, then the town administrator.
Is that an actual motion?
That was an actual motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Supervisor Cole, a second by Supervisor Minter, to allow, town, who did you say?
Zoning administrator.
Zoning administrator to sign off on Adams County Planning and Zoning Department request for town participation in special exemptions and variances. Any more discussion?
But it was
Well,
also-
then it also said, with no zoning administrator present, the town administrator could sign off.
Okay, with that additional, comment. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
That was the only one opposed?
No, Bill and I were opposed.
Okay.
Discussion and possible action. Approval of recommendation from the Plan Commission to the Town Board of the revised site plan of operation for the Wisconsin Trap Shooting Association to construct a storage building on the property located at 1312 Akron Drive, also described as Government Lot 14, Section 6, Town 20 North, Range 06E, Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, with a parcel number of 030-00608-0000. Nick?
Sure. So before you this evening is a request for a revised site plan of operation from Wisconsin Trap Shooting Association. The revised site plan proposes constructing a new storage building on the property located at 1312 Akron Drive for target shooting. They also have on that proposed site plan revision a noted location of a future Hall of Fame building. This item was considered at the February 13th, 2024 Plan Commission meeting where a public hearing was held, after which the Plan Commission recommended approval of the revised site plan and plan of operation. They did place 2 conditions on that, and I believe you have the findings of fact in front of you. One of those conditions is to have waste containers screened. The second condition that is that when the Hall of Fame building would be ready to proceed, that it needs to come to the Plan Commission for approval of the design and layout. And then just a general note that after the Plan Commission meeting, the person that had made the request for the condition for the waste containers to be screened had noted back in an email that that after looking a little bit further into the B1 district regulations, that the screening of waste containers is not required. So it is required in Gateway Overlay and Rome Town Center, but it isn't required in B1. And so the recommendation from that individual was to consider removing that condition if you choose to do so. But it isn't a requirement in B1. It was suggested to be in there based off of the understanding that B1 was the same as Rome Town Center and Gateway Overlay.
Bill, you have a question?
Yeah, is it a condition that could be placed on them without any issues? Because they seem to be willing to do it, and I'm just thinking of it from a standpoint of having been out at the home grounds for a shoot. It would be nice if garbage containers were screened, not just out in the open, other than the ones that are under immediate use for, like waste containers at the food trucks.
So you can place a condition that is above, what we have as a standard in there. I think that, at least in the correspondence, there was at least some follow-up questioning from the applicant as to whether or not those waste containers, would need to be screened, and it sounded like it had some to do with just kind of where they've had it and what would go into doing it. So.
And I think it means, I think there was no discussion about which type of waste container. I mean, we're not talking about barrels at where they're throwing in their food waste on site. I guess I was thinking she was talking about, 6-yard containers, 20-yard containers, something like that. But I have no problem eliminating it. The issue is that since this is not really a topic of discussion right now because they're not building the Hall of Fame building, it could be a topic of discussion at the point in time when they come back with their plan of operation for that building.
Correct.
And that's what I would recommend we do, is just eliminate it off of this, under this findings of fact, and let it come forward at the time that the building comes forward. And then we'll have a better idea of what kind of container they're talking about and whether it should be screened or not. Does that make logical sense to everyone?
I'm gonna make that into a motion.
So I would move that we would, I gotta get that we would approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission to the Town Board of the revised site plan of operation for the Wisconsin Traps Swinging Association to construct a storage building on the property located at 1312 Akron Drive, that we accept the findings of fact to be part of that, with the exception of item B, which was the item A, which was the screening of waste containers.
Second.
We have a motion by Supervisor Capel, second by Supervisor Minter, for the approval of the recommendation of the Plan Commission to the Town Board for the revised site plan of operation for the Wisconsin Trap Shooting Association to construct a storage building on the property located at 1312 Akron Drive, with the findings of fact, with the exception of the screening of the waste containers. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. The board may enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Stat, Section 19.81, Sub 1, Sub C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. The clerk treasurer and administrative assistant support specialist training updates.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute, section 19.85, sub 1, sub C, to consider the evaluation of the clerk treasurer and the administrative support specialist.
Second.
We have a motion by Supervisor Capel, second by Supervisor Minter, to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Stat Section 19.85, Sub 1, Sub C. Roll call vote starting on my left.
Capel, yes.
Minter, yes.
Jumati, yes.
Cole, yes.
All right. And we'll leave Supervisor Bauer Height here. Have a good rest. so. I had to do this really quick, sorry. Right. It did get cold in here, wow. The board may enter into the board reserves the right to enter into open session authorized by Wisconsin Stat Section 19.85 Sub 2 to possibly take action from the closed session and continue with the agenda. Roll call starting on my
No,
left.
Madam Chair,
Oh,
I
I'm
make a
sorry.
motion that we go
Yes.
back into open session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute Section 19.85 subparagraph 2.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Capel, second by Supervisor Minter to re-enter into open session authorized by Wisconsin Stat Section 19.85 Sub 2. Roll call starting on my left.
Capel, yes.
Minter, yes.
Jumati, yes.
Oh, yes.
Right. And any,
Did
We're
Bob
good?
leave?
yeah, oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Right, so dates and items for future agendas and meetings, number 19, next agenda items, we do have some. We're gonna get our road bids hopefully at this next meeting because we've gotta get our bonding going. We had already talked to Greg Johnson about that earlier, right after the first of the year. So hopefully we'll have our road bids by then. We may have some information on the ordinance if Jackie can.
Put that on there to follow up, I'll follow up.
If we have time, or if we have information by then. Anything else, or we'll just build it as it comes? Do we have anything on, we'll have some planning,
Yep, we're gonna have. a
Plan
couple
commission items.
Plan commission items, maybe on the next
Yeah.
agenda.
okay? Anything else anybody can think of, or we'll build it as it comes? Okay. Okay, the next meeting date, please?
March 21st at 5 p.m.
Okay, oh, wow, that's coming fast already too, huh? Alrighty then, so, meeting adjourned.